So today I'm breaking down my Kawasaki Brute Force. This is a 2015 to get at the fuel pump. I've had a problem with this idling. If you try and start it, it typically doesn't start, and if you do get it started, it won't idle. It just shuts down. If you can get the thing going, pump the gas a bunch of times and rev it way up and keep the revs high, RPMs high, you can keep it running, but it'll die the minute you let off the gas. So I have a pretty good feeling that my problem is the fuel filter or the filter on the fuel pump. So I thought I'd take today and show you what you're in for if you try to get at the fuel pump. I'm not going to actually address the replacement of the fuel pump in this video because I don't have the parts today. Today it was just get access to it. So as you look at breaking this thing down, you're going to have to pull the full rear plastic off. There are actually 4 bolts that hold on that rear luggage rack. You pull each of those 4 off. I left the 2 that are attached to the fender right here. These are underneath. Here's one that's on each side is attached to the fender. You can leave those on so you don't have to pull those off. Down here you got 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, that all have to come off to get that rear fender piece off. That's the only way you're going to get access to this gas tank. The real trouble starts when you want to get at the stump tray. The tray that holds all of the wires, the battery, it's covering the gas tank. This thing's a royal pain in the butt to get out of here, and I'll just show you some of the issues related to this thing. Now that I've got it out, these clips right here on the side of this tray actually fit underneath the plastic, which is why you got to take off your fenders. I didn't loosen any of the bolts on the front piece here because I was able to flex this enough to get these tabs out from underneath here. Every wire has got a different one of these kind of clips that hold it down, and every one of these wire connectors is different. So they all have different style connectors where you gotta pinch some, you gotta pry some. You're just gonna have to take your time and look at each one of these things to figure out how to get them off. Take your time because they're easy to break, and it's cold where I'm working, so I'm worried about snapping those. Something to be aware of on this tray, because of the way this thing fits in here, you can't just lift it straight out. Once you get the fender off, there are actually 2 bolts down here under the battery, so you got to take the battery out and release those before you can get the tray out as well. So make sure you get those before you start yanking on this tray. This set of wires was really bound up here on the edge until I had that fully loose. Pulled all of this stuff off. You can see that that tray wasn't going to come out of there. The other thing to be aware of as it relates to this tray, there's these little tabs right here that stick up on the side, and they fit inside of these little square areas on the tube or on the frame. And then there's these pins coming out the side. You can't remove these pins. They're welded in. And this tab slides in this little square to prevent the tray from being able to be lifted up. So I was able to pry those back, and then they popped out. On the right side, it's slotted. You can see that slot right there. The left side doesn't have that slot. The right side does. So you can only lift out or lift up on this right side to get the tray out. So you got to kind of tip the whole thing up this way and then slide it out that direction and pull up. It's got the same tab on the side here. You got to peel that out, and this little pin is what you can get down through this slot here. And that gives you access, once that's out, that gives you access to the fuel pump. This little clip here on top of the fuel pump was a bugger for me to get loose. I'll just show that to you in a minute. It's got a cover on it which protects the wires, And this is actually not the part that you need to get loose to get this thing off. So I'm just going to clip that back on. The mechanism to release this guy is on the back side. It's underneath the frame. Hard to get at. But what you want to do with him is pinch this or push it towards the top of the connector. I initially tried to pull it this direction out. That wasn't working, and then I noticed or figured out if you pinch it, you see that gives you access to that connector to pull that off. Last thing I'm struggling right here with is this guy. I'm not sure I need to get him off entirely to get that fuel pump out of there. I'll mess with him and see what I can get out of here next. But then you've got, basically you've got 6 bolts that hold that fuel pump in. And that should give me access to that. There are videos on YouTube that describe how to break that fuel pump down to get at the filter. So I recommend you take a look at those if you're into the same problem I am. But that should give you a sense of what you got to do to get that that tray out of there and access to the pump.